Good afternoon and welcome to Concurrent B. My name is Apurva Manesh and at SHRM, I head the business for North and East. Our first session today, the question we are addressing in the upcoming session is that corporate India, is it really equipped to implement the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016? Best practices in diversity and inclusion have been in discussion around recruitment and retention. However, disability inclusion often gets lost in discussions about talent management strategies. Global Disability Inclusion and Mercer have recently published an in-depth report detailing critical insights about the employment experiences of people with disabilities and how to prioritize their needs. For this session, we have Rainmaker bringing to you diversity, equity, and inclusion, and particularly addressing persons with disabilities. And for that, I'd like to introduce our panel, founder and CEO of Rainmaker, Anthony Hey Alex. Welcome, Anthony. We have with us Panish Rao, who is the CHRO at Mindtree. Hi, Panish. And Tanya Chatterjee, Lead Inclusion, Wellbeing and Culture at NatWest Group India. Hi, Tanya. Thank you so much for joining us, panel. Over to you, Anthony.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for making time for this session. Welcome to our panelists as well, Panish and Tanya. This session really is focused on the rights of persons with Disabilities Act 2016. This act and the rules thereunder came into effect on April 19, 2017. The law was passed to give effect to the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, which was adopted by the UN on December 13, 2006. So this law, it provides for equal opportunity and non-discrimination of persons with disability. Importantly, this law also mandates organizations to create an equal opportunity policy and identifies 21 different types of disabilities as well. It's truly a landmark legislation. However, there doesn't seem to be much awareness with respect to this law. And so one of the objectives of our session today is to maybe kick off a discussion on how corporate India views this law. Has it taken any steps, or will it be taking any steps to implement this law, although it's already in force? So today we're going to get the views of our panelists on three questions, which will come up on, which is in the deck, which will come up shortly, to get a sense of how they view the law and its implementation. The first question we have for today, and Panish, we could probably kick this off with you, is corporate India equipped to implement this Rights of Persons with Disability Act 2016? Not much is known about it. Our corporate sort of, is there a general sense of awareness, or is it still restricted to a few? What's your sense, and what's been the experience of your organization as well?
Yeah, thank you so much, and pleasure being part of this panel. I think, the awareness will come only when there is an implementation of the law. And I would say that at this moment, the law seems to be somewhere in the book in the library. So whoever is doing, in this area in terms of, inclusion, I would say is doing it because of the passion, because of one feels so for such people, and therefore, doing their best to engage them in the normal livelihood. And I think, in Mindtree, for ages together now, the founders then and now the new management have always felt for people like that. And, if anybody can remember, the old logo of Mindtree was designed by a spastic. And there are about 55 people working in Mindtree at this moment who are differently abled. And these are people who have registered themselves as differently abled. And there are several who have not disclosed their disability, though, visually you can make out they have some disability. And we leave them like that because it is their right to disclose or not to disclose. And I think, as part of our diversity and inclusion, we are taking special steps to increase that number and make them included in the organization. We also feel that, we should not do charity with such people. We believe that, we should employ them for the skills that they bring, the sincerity, the honesty that they bring to the job, the feeling that they bring probably, which not normal people would bring to the job, and the kind of emotional attachment they have to the organization is extremely special. It's got to be felt and experienced to really talk about that. So I guess that is where we are. Unfortunately, the law is unknown. We don't even know how many disabilities are listed in the law, and to be able, and also not just this. I would also say that whether it's got to do with the approvals of the building plan, whether it's got to do with the approvals of the transportation that we use, whether it's about the facilities provided, I think everything lacks at this moment in this country to be able to effectively include them in the organization.
Fair enough, Manish. In fact, there are 21 disabilities that have been listed, and the central government has reserved the right to add to that list as well: physical, mental, intellectual. So it's a fairly exhaustive list, and quite a sort of leap forward in that sense in a country like ours, where awareness with respect to the rights of persons with disability has always traditionally been low. But it's you're right, absolutely, when you say that at this point of time, it's probably the statute is probably a book somewhere in the library. The government also needs to sort of implement it and take word to corporate India to let them know that such a law now exists. Absolutely, fair point. So Tanya, the NatWest experience, your global organization, is this? Did you already? Firstly, with respect to the law, and then secondly, your perspective as a global organization.
Thank you, Anthony. As rightly said by Panish, if there is no greater disability in society than the inability to see a person as more. And that's what I think Panish was alluding to when he was saying it is the felt experience of individuals which has made it work in the corporate world so far. So I don't see any reason why India India corporate is not equipped to implement the RPWD Act 2016. Now, within the Act, out of my own interest, of course, I've studied a little bit of the Act. But even before I go there, let me just call out that corporate is a subset of the society ecosystem that we live in. And if we look at some of the numbers of this ecosystem in India, we have about 2.21% of the total population of India who are, with disabled persons, out of which about 8.53% of the disabled literates are having education qualifications which is above graduate level. And most of these individuals will then enter the corporate world in various capacities. So the law actually, the Act actually helps to see how do we ensure that skill development and employment is provided as an equal opportunity to these colleagues or employees that join the organization. So within Chapter 4 of the Act, it's very clearly called out that there needs to be right to vocational training and self-development, non-discrimination in employment, equal opportunity policy, maintenance of records, and appointment of grievance redressal officer. Is corporate India, especially private organizations and also government organizations, doing all of that? I would say it is in bits and pieces, not consistent. Not all firms are able to engage and continue to provide these opportunities. But certain things that corporate India very easily do, and we also do within NatWest Group India, is one, maintenance of record. So most progressive corporate will maintain records of persons with disabilities hired by them in relation to matters of employment.
That's right.
And also facilities that we need to provide. In terms of non-discrimination in employment, the main premise of this provision in the Act is to ensure employers provide reasonable accommodation and appropriate barrier-free and conducive environment to employees with disability. Now, in that, what NatWest does is very clearly work with the property services team to ensure the physical barriers are removed and there are assistive infrastructure in place for our colleagues with disability. We have around 60 colleagues with disabilities who are working with us. We also have the technology team, which is working on assistive technologies, which is both hardware and software to aid these colleagues so that they are able to operate out of their full potential and bring their best self to work. So, which includes some of the stuff that I want to call out is softwares like JAWS, computer screen reader program for Microsoft Windows. It allows visually impaired users to read screen either with a text speech or with the braille display. Then hardware monitor with arms, large print keyboards, Pebble Vision magnifier, and not only NatWest, most organizations who are employers of employees with disabilities will provide these infrastructures as well.
Right.
So I will stop here. I'm sure we'll discuss further.
Oh, thank you, Tanya. That's in fact, that's really, you've pretty much summed up a lot of what corporate India needs to be focusing on in the coming months and years to implement this law. Some of the challenges are infrastructural, right? And Panish, as an employer of many, as an employer with many a large workforce spread across the country, a lot of these requirements of having the software infrastructure requirements are easily addressed, or well, not so easily addressed, but can be done without the constraints of a physical infrastructure discussion. But a lot of us are dependent on the buildings that we lease out, right? And I'm not even sure how many buildings in India are friendly to persons with disabilities. So is that something that you've started looking at, from an infrastructure perspective?
Anthony, wherever we have our own facility, I think, we have taken the responsibility of building all the infrastructure to the extent that we have given motorized wheelchairs to people who need it in the office to move around. We have redone our doors on every floor. We have redone toilets for such people. So we have done our best. However, since these buildings were not built by us, for us to go from the last floor to the cafeteria, there is no elevator, right? So this is where I think, the separation happens and not inclusion happens, because then, they are eating the food at their place because they can't reach the cafeteria, where the rest of the people are eating the food in the cafeteria.
Correct.
Right. Tanya talked about maintaining records, and I must confess that in my 32 years of work experience in this industry, right from manufacturing to consulting to BPO to software, I must say not one single day have I seen an inspector come and say, please tell me which are the jobs that you have that can be done by people with different ability. There have been PF inspections, there have been, the attendance inspections, there have been all inspections possible wherever there was a monetary motive.
Correct.
But not a single inspection by any authority has happened so far in my 32 years where they have said, I want to do a study of the jobs that you have, and please let us know why you did not employ such people.
Right? I guess, Panish, that's because the statute is relatively new in that sense. Although an older version of this act was there, but this is the the 2016 law is the one that is in place pursuant to the UN convention.
So let's talk of since 2016, how much has it happened, to be honest with you?
Nothing much since 2016, it seems to me. Yeah.
So whatever is happening because of a few people who feel and who want to include.
Yeah.
And this probably is also motivated by some personal experiences of people either within their family or because of the people in the neighborhood or because of an extended family.
Correct.
Right? And people who are in the positions of power where they can influence such inclusion is where it is happening. So just you feeling and not being in that position of power where you can influence such decisions, you still can't do anything about it.
Sure.
So I think, the one of the things that actually probably, many organizations don't do much is because their buildings are not compatible. And to make it compatible, you have to spend a lot of money to do that. For example, to change a door, it will cost you a lot of money. To build a ramp, it's going to cost you a lot of money. To make special elevators, it's going to cost you a lot of money. To make special toilets for such people is going to cost you a lot of money. And to make passages for the wheelchairs to move and for people who move on crutches and stuff like that.
Yes,
you will have to make. And you know what? Investing in a keyboard, investing in a speaking software, investing in a recording software, that is still very minimal. But the other infra of bringing in such people to the workplace. Now, I think, with the remote work coming into place, which we are all talking of, that there's going to be a hybrid model of people working from anywhere and people working from the office. I think this should actually give a fillip to the increase of such people to be able to be employed by various organizations. Because, you don't have to bring them to office then. You can keep them where they are in the confines of their comfort, whether they are with their parents or with their
correct.
partners or somebody who's helping them, take care of certain
Absolutely.
things, right? So that
Panish, I want you to hold that thought on that, because that's our third question, and I'd love to get your views in a little more depth in terms of whether roles for persons with disability are going to be restricted only to virtual roles, or do we have an opportunity to kind of maybe have them also in physical offices? And maybe ultimately the answer is phygital or physical plus digital or hybrid or what have you. But we are going to come back to that. That's our third question. I want to continue on this track with our second question, really, which is, do corporates have the intent to implement the law? And I think part of the answer, Panish, is that, as you rightly identified, that it's still a book in the library. So until the inspectors actually come out there, start getting into offices and buildings and asking for registers, maybe implementation is probably going to be slow. But would love to hear both your thoughts on this. Tanya, maybe you could pick this up, and we could then move to Panish on this particular point.
Sure, I would say the intent is there because people feel passionately about it. They feel that colleagues or employees with disabilities have been marginalized, especially in the Indian ecosystem and in the society as well. So which is great. So it's a good starting point. And therefore, what corporates are usually doing now is put some impetus and engine behind the fact that, okay, what is it that we can provide in terms of infrastructure? What is it that we can provide in terms of, for career development, for learning, and then ensure that they are able to flourish in the organization? Now, while I say that, they are doing it as an additional extra and not a part of their holistic employee value proposition. Right. It is still a diversity and inclusion proposition. It is still a group of passionate leaders or passionate diversity inclusion professionals and business leaders who are driving this agenda. And they say, okay, here is a development program. Can we do it? And then everybody rallies behind it and say, let's do it. I'll just give an example of what we have done in NatWest Group India. We realized that we have a lot of leadership development program. We have women development program, women leadership development program, personal effectiveness program. In all these sessions, our persons with disabilities need a differentiated learning journey as well as mentoring with people who are equipped to mentor their lived experiences, because we have to accept that it is different. And therefore, we put together a 6 months program, which is called Aspire, only for colleagues with disability, but to ensure that they get a broader network. We made it like an industry program where NatWest guarantees minimum parties. Of course, we do it with a professionally run organization who are equipped to take them through that journey for 6 months. But we welcome participation from other organizations who come into the cohort, and then colleagues learn from each other as well. So it's a huge networking opportunity. We have seen visible difference in confidence in employees with disability. We have seen leadership. We have also seen that they have become very vocal about their needs, their wants, and the responsibilities they want to exhibit or take on in the organization. So these are some of the things that we must start doing in order to incorporate it as a larger colleague proposition and not just a DNI proposition.
Fair enough. And before I wanted to add one more point and then get Panish's view on this is the law talks about an equal opportunity policy. And I want to just come back to both of you on that one particular point as well, as it seems to be something that is, it seems, as if it could be a low hanging fruit. We could actually kick off the implementation of the act with that. But Panish, your thoughts.
So, law, I think it is inevitable now for many organizations to get into it, especially if you have international.
Your voice is it's a little unclear. If you could speak closer to the mic.
What I was saying is,
Perfect.
law or no law, I think, it's becoming inevitable for organizations who are doing business across the world to be cognizant of this fact and, start doing something towards inclusion. Reason being, there are lots of RFPs that probably one will not qualify if one did not have sufficient inclusion in the organization.
Right.
And they are meant for very special organizations who have inclusion as part of their business. Second is, I think, if we have noticed in the last 6 months to a year or so, ESG has picked up hugely in the Indian corporates. And whereas the S part of it will talk a lot about the inclusion. And people are being rated, people are being ranked and scored on ESG.
That's right.
And all companies are setting goals right up to 20, 30, 35 and saying this is what we want. So what I mean to say is the intent is coming out now. Forced or unforced, doesn't matter, but the intent is coming out and it's being recorded. Now, it's not just that you publish a plan, but actually you will be measured on the plan that you are actually executing year after year. So if you don't show progress for 5 years, doesn't mean that you will be able to achieve the target by 2030. So you will have to show progress. Otherwise, you will be a company who's making a false promise. And on Tanya's point, I must tell you that, last year, I think when we wanted to celebrate the World's Disability Day and talking of inclusion, there were a set of people in our organization, and we said to them that we want to make this day a very special day for you. So let us know what can we do for you. And they said, don't do anything for us, and we will not do anything for you. Let's do something together. And I thought that was profound.
That's very inspiring.
Don't make us look so special just because, we have some deformation, and don't make us do something for you just to clap for that particular day. If you really feel we are included, then, please let us do something together. And we did something together. And it is a day that even today it is remembered. And every year one looks forward to that particular day. And there is tremendous celebration. And I would rather go to say that, why don't we celebrate the World Disability Day every day?
That Panish, actually, that's very inspiring, and that's very true. Actually, I think persons with disability, at least the ones that I've spoken to, are very clear that we don't want any special favors or anything. Don't treat us differently. But yeah, it is good that the law is recognizing us as a category of people that the law will support and help. And I think corporate India, in some senses, might actually be, as you rightly identified it, Panish, moving maybe even ahead of the legal framework because of the ESG requirements, because of the ratings that are going to come out of it, because of investor pressure, even maybe. So I think only time will tell how this is sort of going to play out. But we have a little less, under 5 minutes more to go. So I want to move quickly into our last question, which is really how sensitized are we as a country, as people, are we sensitized enough to accommodate persons with disability, employees, as a part of our working culture? And this is really a very, very, I think, HR question. And, you two are potentially the right people to answer this. Organizationally, culturally, as a country, are we sensitized enough? Do we need to do more? And if, coming back to, the point you made, Panish, earlier, will this end up being, will the recruitment of people be only, PWD people only be in the virtual roles, or is there an opportunity for us to do something hybrid or mixed? So I'm going to quickly ask Tanya to kick off the response, and then Panish, we can end with you on this particular point.
Right. So culture is a collective of how organization values are lived in the organization, right? How we communicate, how we make people feel, how we drive performance, how we respond to challenges, how we interact with our customers. So, and overall, how do we run our business? That's culture. So a large part of this is how we behave with each other and with our customers. What we have seen while in interacting with our employees with disabilities, they have time and again come back and say there are places and touch points of the employee cycle where it is clearly not an inclusive culture. And I'll give you an example. We do several town halls through the year. We have almost close to 20 colleagues who are speech and hearing impaired. How many of those town halls actually have sign language experts? We have Zoom transcript available, but have we done that in the past? I must admit, in terms of self-disclosure, that we didn't think of it enough. And therefore, now we are ensuring that there is on-demand sign language experts available. Every single communication, whether it is an HR policy communication, whether it is a fun at work communication, whether it is a well-being communication, whether it is a business strategy cascade, business result cascade communication, in every such communication, we write a noting saying that if you have accessibility needs, please let us know. If you need on-demand sign language experts, please let us know. And just by doing that one change, we have seen that colleagues are coming back and asking for those, and we are making them available. Now, that's a shift in culture. And we have also, a lot of times HR professionals make those good policies, and we really feel proud of our employee benefits. This year, when COVID struck us, and that was the time when we felt that, okay, do all our people understand our medical insurance policies, enhanced medical insurance policies, and also life insurance policies, right? To our horror, we discovered that our colleagues with disability, particularly colleagues with hearing and speech disability, their understanding of policies was extremely poor. And we were living with it for the last 3 years. So we immediately ensured that we put a program together, which is called a Well Connect program. We started connecting colleagues with disabilities every single week, twice a week, through an external agencies who are equipped to do so. And of course, to check on their well-being, to see what support we can provide, but also to let them know what all resources are available in the organization.
Understood. Tanya, I'm so sorry. We are almost out of time. I can see the clock winding down.
I'll stop now.
Your last thoughts, but
so let me start with saying I endorse the culture that Tanya described. In addition, I would add to say that please don't do this just because you feel sorry for such people, right? Do it only if you think they can be included in the organization, and inclusion means that they are really contributing to the company and feel that they are earning the salary. Give them the space to actually stand up like any other normal person to say, look, I'm doing so much, I think I'm paying less. Let them ask for it because they're really doing the job. And the other question that on virtual learning, I would say that don't discriminate just because somebody is disabled to work.
Panish, your voice is not clear. I'm so sorry.
What I was saying is, please don't discriminate people, by their physical handicap to decide to work virtually or to work from office.
Sure.
Go by the job itself and then decide whether that job needs to be done virtually or to be done physically from the office. So that is the request I make to all the corporates. We intend to get more and more inclusion in the companies.
Thank you, Panish. And I think right on cue, Apurv is back here with us to remind us that our time is over. Thank you, Tanya. Thank you, Panish. Thanks so much. Apurv,
Pleasure.
Thank you so much, Anthony. Thank you, panel members. It's a pleasure. Thank you for that insightful session. Thank you to our partner, Rainmaker.